Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new and you like to hear about opinions, reviews, analyses, and ramblings on films, books, and TV shows, be sure to click that subscribe button for more content from me. Today we're doing film chat, which is just me talking about films, reviewing them, my thoughts, and like the occasional analysis or two. So it has been about like 6 or 7 months since my last video. I ended up getting a temp job, which I worked for like 5 months, and then I had a vacation. And like when I was working the temp job, it was like basically like a 9 to 6 job, and then during the weekends I was also working at my other job like as a server, so that left me like little time to do anything else. So I also did not do a 2022 film and book rankings, and I was thinking of doing it, but then I was just like, if I do it now, it'd be kind of weird to do it like in the middle of like the year, like 6 months have passed into 2023, like that's just too weird. And it's gonna like bug me, so I'm not gonna do one this year, but I'm not gonna do the 2022 ones, but I will do a 2023 film and book rankings, that much I can promise you. So, what else? Nothing much has changed other than like, I got a new armchair, so this is very comfy. I'm ready to like chat about films. So today I'm going to be talking about 2 films because I figured after my like 6 to 7 month hiatus, it's only fair that I come back with like 2 films instead of 1 like in this video. So today I'm going to be talking about Knives Out and Glass Onion. So why exactly did I choose these 2 films? So I watched Glass Onion when it came out in December of 2022, and I was literally like obsessed with it for like the longest time. So as you guys know from previous videos, I love murder mysteries, and I've done like a lot of videos on murder mystery books. I've mentioned murder mystery films in some of my previous film chat videos. So this is going to be another murder mystery film, 2 murder mystery films that I've loved and I've been actually wanting to talk about a lot since I watched them. So for me, what is fascinating is to watch the success of the murder mystery genre with Knives Out and Glass Onion in comparison to other films like Amsterdam and See How They Run. So I'm going to talk more about the Amsterdam comparison like later on in this video. So the murder mystery genre. So I'm a nerd, and when I was like doing like the outline, like my notes for this video, I'm just like, okay, so what exactly is the murder mystery genre? Like what was the first ever story? Technically, like that's what I wanted to look up, and according to Google, the very first ever story is called The Murders in the Rue Morgue by Edgar Allan Poe, which was published in 1841. And it has spawned countless of detectives like after the story was published, like Sherlock Holmes and Hercule Poirot, to name a few. So I actually did just buy this from Indigo, and this includes the short story Murders in the Rue Morgue, which says it is considered to be the first classic tale of detection that gave birth to the genre of crime fiction which we know and love today. So then, now that I know what the first murder mystery story was, what was the first murder mystery film? And of course, it's going to be an adaptation of Poe's short stories, one of which was The Gold Bug in 1910, and Murder in Rue Morgue, The Murders in Rue Morgue, which was released in 1914. So clearly, the genre has been around for so long that it's very easy for it to become repetitive. And the whole point of genre, like genre in general, not just murder mystery, is that there will always be certain elements that you find in every story under that genre. So in this case, for murder mysteries or crime fiction, it's the detective, the murder, the suspects, the victims, motive, etc. Also, the structure of murder mysteries has pretty much been standardized. Like, look at police procedural shows like Castle, Bones, CSI, SVU, anything with those letters. They pretty much follow like the exact same format. So it's been like, it's been done, it's been overplayed. So then this begs the question, what made Knives Out a success back in 2019 when it was first released? So, the way I'm gonna do this is that I'm just gonna go based off of the notes that I was writing, like as I was rewatching the film. So, like, bear with me if I seem a little all over the place. So, the first thing you need to know about Knives Out is that it is evidently inspired and pays homage to the detective stories that came before. Like, Benoit Blanc is inspired by Hercule Poirot and Sherlock Holmes. So, even from the opening shot of the film, like, the overall dark academia aesthetic, like, it evokes like a period aesthetic, like, how do I explain this? So think of Agatha Christie writing mystery novels in the 20th century, like, that's exactly the vibe that the film was going for. And it also evokes like the old money rich vibe with like the Thrombey family. But at the same time, even though it pays homage to these classic like detective stories, it sets itself apart from the ones that came before it. So the focus of Knives Out is the mystery and the motives of the family, because like Benoit Blanc doesn't appear to be a main character, even though he is the main character. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you look at the shot that I'm going to include, Benoit doesn't appear or speak during the interrogations. Like, he's just in the background. He's a little bit blurry. The camera's not focused on him. So he's there to, like, observe and, like, not make assumptions. So, and the story doesn't revolve around him. The film also does have a little bit of self-reflexivity. So in the beginning of the film, we see that Marta's sister was watching a murder mystery. And then there's also like this irony with Harlan Thrombey being a crime novelist and his own death becoming like a murder mystery. So one of the things I loved about Knives Out was actually how it was edited. So specifically the interrogation scenes. So if you see, there's this clip I'm gonna like put up on the screen. So the detectives are talking to Richard Drysdale, and then based on the conversations they're having, you're gonna assume that like they're still talking to Richard Drysdale. But then it cuts back to a new character, which in this case is Linda. Like after it goes from Benoit to Linda. And like I think that's just really cool, because normally they would just keep it on like the same character until the interrogation was over. So by doing like a new character, it changes the pace in your understanding of like what really happened that night. Plus, with the interrogation scenes, like it was set up to do both a show and tell. So the characters are saying like this is what happened, but then what you're seeing on screen is like what really happened. So like like you see that these characters are lying, which I think was really cool, because like obviously you can't really tell that when you're reading like a novel, but with movies, like with films, you could do you could see it like based on the information that the camera chooses to show you, or like how it was edited. So then another interesting thing to note is that there's a lot of like back and forth with like present and flashback, but unlike other films that usually apply like a sort of subtle or dreamlike filter, there's none of that. Like the coloring of this film is very consistent all throughout. So what you're doing is that you're relying on knowing what the characters were wearing, so their costumes, as well as like the party taking place at night and then the interrogations taking place during the day. So it's not like these flashback scenes were set completely apart, like it's just consistent with its coloring, which I think is really cool. So another thing I mentioned was that there was this comparison to Amsterdam in the intro. So Amsterdam is also a murder mystery, and it had like a star-studded ensemble cast like Knives Out did. But Amsterdam is overly star-packed. Like, I was watching it, and every time I see a new celebrity, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like so-and-so is like here. Like, I think we had Taylor Swift, Anya Taylor-Joy, Rami Malek, Margot Robbie, Christian Bale, Chris Rock, like there were so many. So then every time I see them, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the celebrity, which then kind of takes away from the focus on the mystery. But Knives Out is not overly star-packed. Like, I find that there was like a good balance between all of the actors. Like, yes, you know who these actors are. They're all like A-list celebrities, but like it doesn't take away from the mystery. Like, they have a really good like balance, like it's this. It's not like star power over mystery. It's star power and mystery. So while I understand that star power is what drives like the publicity of films, okay, like you're not gonna watch a film if you like, part of the reason we watch films is because like our favorite actors or actresses are going to be there, like you know it. but too much of it can be like a bad thing, and like that's partially why some of these movies would like fail. But again, like I said, Knives Out does it like well balanced. It's not like, you know, it's not overly packed, so that way like you're good, like it's all good. Also, like, Knives Out is a mystery and comedy, so it's not overly serious or tense like Murder on the Orient Express. So I'm just gonna say Murder on the Orient Express was based on a novel written by Agatha Christie, and the adaptation I'm referring to is the one that was directed by Kenneth Branagh, like, I want to say like 2017 to 2019. So that one is like definitely more tense, serious, somber in its mood, but Knives Out like has a really good balance of comedy and mystery. Like the comedy doesn't feel forced, you know? Like it's not there for the sake of being funny. Like it works really well. So then this again goes back to the idea of everything being well balanced. So there's also like so many iconic lines like throughout this film. So enjoy this little montage of some of my favorite lines.
Hey, you had a long day. You wanted to drugs?
Walt, he was in the bathroom.
Yeah, he was in the bathroom.
Joylessly masturbating to pictures of dead deer.
A donut. One central piece. And if it reveals itself, the fog would lift. The arc would resolve. The slinky become unkinked.
Your argument with Harlan. What were the overheard words by the Nazi child masturbating in the bathroom?
So all of these are funny enough, like without context, but having context like still makes it funny. It's not like, you know, like some things like you just need it out of context to make it funny. This one, context is good, like it's still funny. So another thing I noticed about this film was that like it's basically a social commentary on like rich people and how they treat immigrants like Marta and how they discuss politics. All right, so bear with me here. So personally, I find that a lot of films that try to do social commentary, they overcompensate, all right, on the social commentary, or like they do it in like such a shallow way that you feel like it was just done for the sake of being relevant or woke. But the whole premise of Knives Out is a social commentary, which is constantly emphasized by Marta's treatment by the family. So the first thing is that I've noticed every time they would talk about Marta in interrogation scenes, they're saying that like she comes from Paraguay, Uruguay, Brazil, like there's not a single like country that they could decide where she comes from, or like they don't care enough to know where actually she comes from. And then in her first scene with Linda's just like, oh, like I was outvoted by the family, I'm so sorry you couldn't come to the funeral. And I'm just like, okay. And then here's like so direct quotes verbatim from the film, which was, she's like, family will, and then like they tell her that we'll take care of you. But then when they find out that Harlan left everything to Marta, they're just like, she's not family, like how come she gets the inheritance? And I'm just like, wow, rich people. They change their tune real quick when money's involved. So the TLDR is that like it's not just like a one-off thing. They didn't just shove in like one scene of Marta being mistreated by the family. Like all of these little things are included in the film to show how awful the family is towards her. So then let's move on to the overall plot structure of the film. So personally, I thought it was done like really, really well, because you're constantly guessing who could be the killer and why. And I'm gonna be real with you, I was thrown off with like the whole Switch Med storyline, because I'm just like, okay, so he didn't really like get killed, or like it was an accident and then he just killed himself to save Marta. And like it was mind-blowing. There's a lot of twists and turns in this film, which is why I loved it. And having Chris Evans play the victim, like it really sold the twist. So going back to again what I mentioned about like stars and star power, so Chris Evans is known as, you know, he plays Captain America. That is his most iconic role, most popular role, and he's constantly playing good guys in films. So that's why him playing Ransom, who is like a major jerk, a really hot major jerk, you wouldn't expect him to be the killer, because it's Chris Evans, that's Captain America, like that's who you associate like with like his face. So you're like, he can't be the killer, and then he turns out to be the killer, and it's just like, it's mind-blowing. For me at least, it was mind-blowing and like completely awesome. Also, like him framing Marta, like you didn't see it coming, like, which I thought was like really cool. And the whole thing with the twist is that it is like meant to throw you off, and it's a good twist. They didn't do it in a way that's just like, gotcha, like it came out of the blue. Like all the little things are there, like especially with like the wordplay. I think it was like the scene where Marta goes to Fran, like, and she was dying, and she says, "You did this," and then it turns out when we like later on in the film, you realize like Marta realizes she didn't say "you did this," she said "Hugh did this." So like the wordplay is like really interesting, and like it really does like help set up like this reveal like really like rather beautifully. So we're getting to the end of like my thoughts on Knives Out. So one thing I want to mention is actually the closing shot. So I'm gonna include like the picture of a closing shot of the film right here, which is Marta standing over the balcony as she watches the Thrombies getting like kicked out. I thought it was poetic justice based on how they treated her and like how they tried to manipulate her into like renouncing her inheritance. Like especially like Meg, you assume that like they're kind of friends, they're kind of close, but then she goes and tells her family that like Marta's mom is undocumented. Like, girl, like don't do that. Like that's not cool. So as a last note before I move on to Glass Onion, I like the trope of the disinherit them all that happens when rich people are involved in stories like this. So personally, if you like the whole disinherit them all trope like I do, I'd recommend reading Inheritance Games, except, you know, the Hawthorns are a lot more likable than the Thrombies are. So that's my recommendation. Alright, now we're gonna move on to Glass Onion, which made me go, huh? Glass Onion? A sequel? Why? So, in a world of cinematic universes and sequels, you don't really think that a murder mystery film needs a sequel, because like that's the whole point. You have the movie to set the mystery up, have the reveal, and everything's like done by then. You know, it's like packaged in a neat little bow and you're good. But Glass Onion, like, it's mind-blowing, it's amazing, and my personal opinion, I think it was better than Knives Out. Okay, that's just my personal opinion, but like hear me out. So I will talk more about like why I think it's better than Knives Out like later on. So the thing about this, like I really liked about this, like Knives Out and Glass Onion as like Glass Onion as a sequel, is that there is no need to watch Knives Out in order to like understand what's going on with Glass Onion, and you don't even need to watch like Glass Onion to know what goes on in Knives Out. They're like two completely separate films, with the only common thread being that Benoit Blanc is a detective, you know? So it's not like, yeah, like I said, like, you know, with cinematic universes you have to watch all like films that came before it in order to understand what's going on, or like even with like sequels, like you feel like you have to watch every single film that comes before it, but not with Knives Out and Glass Onion, which I think is like really cool. So the opening shot of Glass Onion like indicates the change in aesthetic of the film. So the first film has a heavy emphasis on dark academia, old money, old murder mystery, but Glass Onion feels more grounded and very contemporary, especially with the pandemic being so overt in like this opening sequence. So like you can even see the date, like May 13th, 2020. Plus it's like more bright, it's summery, and like it feels a lot less constricted. And it doesn't feel like a murder mystery film, all right? So like the beginning doesn't feel like a murder mystery film because it didn't open with a murder. Like Knives Out opened with the discovery of Harlan's death, and I mean, we have the murder mystery party in Glass Onion, which sets up Miles to be the victim, but you don't get the murder happening until the 1 hour mark, which leaves you confused at first with like the pacing. Okay. So, just like its predecessor, Knives Out, it's another star-studded ensemble cast, but again, Rian Johnson does this very well with like the balance of the characters. It doesn't take away, like even with all the cameos, it doesn't take away from the mystery itself. So just like Knives Out, it's filled with like references, but instead of being like regular murder mystery references like from Agatha Christie or Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, it has references to Greek mythology while being set on a Greek island. So, okay, the name thing with Andy and Helen. So I was super proud that I actually caught it like while I was watching it, because like everyone on Tumblr was like raving about this. And I was just like, yes, I feel smart. I totally caught this reference. So Andy and Helen's name. So Andy's real name is Cassandra. So Cassandra, if you guys don't know, in Greek mythology, was cursed by the god Apollo to be able to see visions of the future, but no one ever believes her. And then you get Andy in the film, who tries to warn everyone, or like at least her friends, about the dangers of the hydrogen fuel that Miles Braun wants to use, but no one believes her. And then Helen. So Helen, for me, like the reference I got was Helen of Troy. So Helen of Troy was said to be the cause of the Trojan War. Like she was kidnapped by the Trojans to be Paris's wife, but like she was already married to somebody else. And the Trojan War led to Troy's destruction, and Helen in Glass Onion destroyed Miles Braun's legacy. So I just really love like these parallels and these references, and like I just go viral for them every single time. So the thing that keeps me up at night and lives in my head rent free, is that post dinner sequence, and where like later on in the film you find out that like Duke actually found out about Andy's death and was gonna like blackmail Miles about it, or like subtly confronts Miles about it. So what I like is actually how it was framed and edited. So you see that Miles and Duke have a dialogue going on. So we don't see what's on Duke's phone screen, and we're barely given any glimpse, and we have to rely on the dialogue and take their word for it that like what they're talking about is something that has to do with Duke's channel, and like he believes that these numbers are enough to get him on Alpha News, and that's what like he talks to Miles about. And you don't really think that he's blackmailing Miles, because he was being very subtle about it. And again, we don't see what was on the phone screen, so we can only believe or like guess from like what they're talking about, right? So another thing I noticed on my second watch, so I did my second watch of Glass Onion, and I was like taking down these notes. So I was carefully watching the scene again, and we do see Miles handing his glass to Duke instead of Duke taking the glass from Miles, like Miles claimed. So then when Miles Miles is claiming that like Duke took the glass from him, and so like the glass was meant for Miles, like you would think that he's telling the truth, unless you already caught like the first shot, like the first clip where like the scene where Miles actually hands his glass to Duke. So then Duke's death being at the 1 hour mark, like yes, I actually took note, because I was like, it's a murder mystery, when's the murder happening, you know? So like I have so many thoughts on like Duke's death. So the first is like the subversion of expectations, which seems to be very key in Knives Out and Glass Onion. So the thing is, the murder mystery party that Miles is hosting, it's like based on previous murder mysteries that you've seen. Like it sets up Miles as being the victim, because I totally thought he was the one who was getting whacked like at the beginning of the film. And Duke was the one who was set up to be like the one with the most motive if Miles was killed. So in the first part of the film, we see Duke watching Whiskey and Miles, and again, you could kind of infer a lot based on like this clip that his girlfriend is cheating on him with the rich friend, so of course he would be angry and betrayed, and then he's gonna kill Miles. But then Duke being the one who is killed completely changes things. It begs the question, who would kill him and why? So Miles's personalized glass is another red herring. So Miles tries to claim he's the one who's been targeted and was only spared because Duke asked for his glass, which we now know he actually gave to Duke, not Duke taking the glass. Like, you know what I mean. This then sets off a chain of events that leads to Andy/Helen being shot, and Blanc calling her by her real name, which is Helen. And this happens exactly halfway through the movie, and this is where we get the flashback and the reveal, which leads up to Helen being shot. So up until that point for me, like, it was confusing that it was like, for a murder mystery, the murder didn't happen until like the hour-long mark. I'm like, what is the pacing, you know? But as it turns out, like as we find out in the second half of the film, the murder already happened prior to the start of the film. Also, I was gonna say that like Blanc was acting like way too weird at the beginning, which was because like again, I watched these two films back to back and I'm just like, he wasn't acting like this with the Thrombies in Knives Out, so like why is he acting so weird around like Miles and the Disruptors? And as it turns out, the reason he's acting so weird is because like he's trying to lie to help keep Helen's cover as Andy. So the second half has a lot more showing, like a lot of revelations at least, because then you realize that a lot of the scenes that were shot one way in the first half were like something else is actually happening like in the second half. So there was a lot of information that was being withheld in the first half, and it's only in the second half that they reveal what information was being withheld. So the first thing was like I said before, Duke seeing whiskey with Miles. So it reveals that like, you know, Duke was actually pimping out his own girlfriend to gain Miles's favor, and this revelation was done through editing. So the first time the scene was shown, it just seems like Duke is being betrayed. But the second time that we see this scene, we have the dialogue, and it shows that Duke wanted Whiskey to sleep with Miles, but Miles won't budge on letting him be on the news, and that's why he looks betrayed. Not because like his girlfriend was cheating on him. He's literally pimping out his girlfriend, which gross, dude. Like, why would you do that? Like, ugh, men. Alright, so then the editing and framing of shots is so important because it determines what information is revealed and when, and the impact of this knowledge wouldn't be the same in the first half, which is why it's withheld until the second half. So then the crux of the film comes down to this brilliant speech made by Benoit Blanc.
You see, I expected complexity. I expected intelligence. I expected a puzzle, a game. But that's not what any of this is. It hides not behind complexity, but behind mind-numbing, obvious clarity.
So this is yet another subversion of expectations of the genre itself, okay? So the expectation for murder mysteries is high. Like, you expect it to not be easy. You expect complications. You expect complexity. The way that, like, Knives Out was set up, you don't expect it to be easy and obvious, which is why you miss what is happening right in front of you. So then with the climax, it's the revelation that Miles is just dumb as hell. Like, he did not write the puzzles, he did not write the mystery, and he was caught by Benoit Blanc by using words that, like, don't make sense. I think it's called malaprism. I can't remember the word. Malaprisms? I'll look it up again later. So anyway, Miles is really, with a capital T and a capital D, that dumb. Alright? He did not think of the consequences about killing Andy until like after the trial, and that she revealed she had the envelope, which proves like she had intellectual property of Alpha. He did not destroy the envelope until after Lionel asked, bro, like, why didn't you destroy the envelope? And he stole the idea of killing Helen due to something like Blanc said. Like, this man had like 0 thoughts and 0 brain cells. Alright, so here's the thing. Normally, I love dumb characters, like himbos, bimbos, everything in between. I love them. But Miles is just so unlikable because he's like one of those people that like, he thinks he's smart, but he's not. He's actually dumb as hell. Like, oh my god. Like, he has 0 original thoughts. Like, it just frustrates me. It frustrates me and frustrates Blanc. So like, there we go. So I'm actually nearing the end of this video. And of course, here's my obligatory montage of my favorite lines from this film. Enjoy.
It's a dangerous thing to mistake speaking without thought for speaking the truth.
About Miles. What if he just did it?
Well, we can't rule it out, but Miles Braun is not an idiot.
Bertie, please tell me you did not think sweatshops are where they make sweatpants.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
You're ruined. And you did get your wish to forever be remembered in the same breath as the Mona Lisa.
Alright, so to sum up, Knives Out and Glass Onion are both incredibly well written like murder mysteries, but they're different. Alright, so Knives Out was complex in its structure, whereas Glass Onion was incredibly detail oriented, even if the murder mystery structure was rather simple and obvious in comparison to Knives Out. Both of them have a good balance of mystery and comedy, and they also have a well-balanced ensemble cast that doesn't take away from the actual like mystery or the actual story. So the editing when it comes to the revelations in both films like are amazing. Knives Out would show the truth while the character says one thing. Glass Onion shows the importance of withholding information in the first half and revealing it in the second half in order for all the pieces to connect. They do a lot of subversion of expectations, but not in a haha, gotcha way, you know? Like, the clues have been there. It's just a matter of seeing them through different, like, from a different lens, or in this case, different angled shots. So in a genre that has been around for almost 2 centuries, it's nearly impossible to come up with something new and exciting. But Knives Out and Glass Onion are refreshing takes on the genre. Like, Knives Out pays homage to the old murder mysteries, while Glass Onion is so simple at its core, but brilliant in its execution. So I really appreciate that you don't have to watch one in order to understand the other. Like, both can really be watched on their own and like still be enjoyed. So I never watch murder mysteries more than once just because the payoff isn't the same after the first watch, but these two are like fun to rewatch. Like, it has a high rewatchability, and it's so fun to catch like these little clues that you might have missed the first time around. And that's a wrap on Glass Onion. If you've got suggestions for films, books, and TV shows, like, feel free to comment down below. The next video for this month is a book talk, and it will be my thoughts and review on the Folk of the Air trilogy by Holly Black. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day. Please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. See you guys next time. Okay, that was like really cringe. Let's pretend I didn't just do that. So like, see you guys next time. Bye.